The Blaze brothers sure have been making headlines lately. Joey here upsetting folks left and right, and his younger brother doing well, just about the same, while still in high school. This match was something similar, though not very exciting until its last moments. Peyton Robb was number 3 in the nation, though he has suffered some losses recently. Many are saying this isn't the Peyton Robb we used to know. He did get a chunk of his leg taken out for a skin infection last year, so that might be a factor with his performance this year. Either way, he's still quite a formidable foe. The first period was pretty calm, though 2 scrambles did take place, both of which ended up with a shin whizzer unable to really capitalize on anything. In the first scramble, Joey had the single, doing a good job shelving the leg here on the inside hip, which you really should work for these days offensively against a shin whizzer. Keeping the ankle on the inside runs the risk of having to fight off a Jonesy, but he starts coming up with it and Robb dives underneath for some rolling funk. When you start coming up with a leg like this, you always have to guard it with your free arm, have it ready to catch a crossface. That way when they dive under, you can catch under the head and you're able to get an easy takedown as there's really nowhere to go. You can even fake this if you want, like start coming up with it and when you feel pressure, release, you drop to your knees and dig under. He doesn't catch it though, so Robb is able to start coming up out the back door. Here in this position, you can switch to out the back door defense, lock both hands around the waist, trap an arm, look for a Winn-Dixie, and if that's not available, you would try to attack an ankle on the same side your opponent has a leg controlled so you can funk without getting caught up. His position is a little low, so it's not a great time to look for that stuff. What he does do coming up with the ankle here is probably a good idea. This ends in a stalemate. On the next scramble, the situations are reversed. Robb has the single and Blaze has the whizzer. It doesn't look like Blaze is interested in trying to go Jonesy. He's not circling enough away from the whizzer, even though his ankle is on the inside of the body. Robb digs his knee to the outside and shelves the leg, goes to limp his arm out, which isn't a terrible idea. Though when you do this, you would want to cover the far side of your opponent better, almost like you're trying to throw a far leg in, so that it's harder for your opponent to just roll underneath. As he limps his arm out and covers the waist, Blaze does a forward roll and kicks the outside arm over with his leg. This is very smart and usually is available whenever your opponent is covering the far hip like this. So while covering the far hip does have an advantage in getting quick takedowns against less funky opponents, against good scramblers, it's always better to stay lower on the legs, maybe down at a knee or right above the knees. Then when your opponent tries to kick over, you can roll with them and then you're still on the legs in for a takedown. Blaze, however, is able to stay safe off his back and start getting height and force a stalemate. The rest of the period runs out without much action. Second period, Blaze throws in a leg, digs under the far arm, looks like he's looking for a ball and chain. Robb goes for what we used to call a suicide roll, which only really works if the top legger doesn't have his legs locked up like a figure 4, and that is the case here. Blaze is using his free leg to keep his hips up, but he really needs to step his free leg over top of the ankle of the leg that's already in. You can go ankle to ankle there, or figure 4, either way, you're controlling the leg better. The double lock locks the leg and you're controlling the leg better. The two slip your leg out at all, and is what you should be doing as often as possible when you're riding legs. Robb does get a leg out, but Blaze is able to stick behind. Blaze slips his leg in again, and again he fails to lock his legs up and keep control of the leg that's in. I'm assuming he doesn't know this because he failed to secure his leg in twice, and twice Robb did that suicide roll, and this time Robb was able to get free, arm drag, pull himself around. Robb gets a reversal because you only need to get back behind your opponent to get points for a reversal. It doesn't matter if they're in a stand-up or not. Blaze does a good job keeping Robb's hands separated, posts it down, and is able to get the escape. This here is important. Getting reversed really stinks, but when you immediately get an escape, it takes the edge off more than you'd think. So if anyone ever gets behind you, you want to attack the hands and try to get your escape as soon as you can. This is a normal thing. You should be in the habit of doing this anyways. In neutral, you can often save like a takedown if you're able to separate the hands and post and get free right away. So here we are, third period. Robb is controlling Blaze on top using a one-on-one wrist ride, or what people are calling a Blair ride these days. Blaze works up to his feet while Robb is leaning a lot of pressure and weight to the right as Robb digs for a 2-on-1. And so he almost forces Blaze to do a Granby roll. Robb has the leg locked up as he goes, which is good, but he fights the roll. This ends up being a good idea. He almost gets some back points doing a regular 2-on-1 tilt. You would start stepping over the head, stay in a tripod, and try to keep your opponent on his back, but Blaze is able to keep himself off of his back as Robb starts to lose control of the 2-on-1. This is where things get a little bit more interesting. Blaze starts to pass the leg over and starts to get height, which is exactly what you need to do in this situation. Get height, look for a crossface, get your takedown or reversal. Robb rolls onto the ankle and is forced to get some funk of his own. So Blaze steps back over, keeps that bottom leg controlled, and looks for a low leg cradle. This is a really rough position to be stuck in when you're trying to funk. It's how Spencer Lee pinned Tomasello years ago at this point. You keep your left arm between your legs and look for a low leg cradle or Navy ride, depending on what side your opponent is rolling to, and dig underneath underneath the head to keep your opponent on his back. At the very least, you force your opponent to bail and you get a takedown, but if you keep it tight enough, you can look for a pin. And that's pretty much what happens here. Blaze keeps pressure with his chest on Robb's shoulder, has a half Nelson of sorts, works his way to a Turk, and secures the fall.